Anybody on our days in hospital?
But also she had hospital number. She wouldn't do it. They are fantastic. Thank goodness.
All that sort of.
Let's start again. They're coming good.
Yeah, no, they're very good. Oh yeah, that's how rich she is. That's
Okay. We have the 10 principles of good dementia design from Mary Marshall. We've also got some other sources of good information about dementia design. And one of them is from the Victorian Government website, the Department of Health. They have quite an extensive section on dementia care and aged care more broadly, but particularly on dementia care. So I would suggest you use this link to access the dementia care section, particularly the dementia-friendly environments section. There's a lot of good work there done by a group of people that includes Dr. Sam Davis, and they have been very, I think, very clever about the way that they have devised this model that they've used. So that's the link. You can use that in your own time to access the site. These are some of the principles that they include on this site. And there are 9 principles that they go by. They're very similar to the principles of Mary Marshall, and they're well worth having a look at. So we'll just go quickly through them. Keep health at the best possible level. And again, they're slightly different to the principles and more broad than the principles of Mary Marshall. Mary Marshall's focusing on the physical environment, whereas the Victorian Government website is focused on more broadly the dementia-friendly environment, both physical and social. Number 2, make up for reduced sensory, cognitive and motor ability to support independence. So this is getting at the notion that we need to actually create an environment that makes up for the deficits in the person's function. The third one is support continuation of roles and lifestyles. And this is an important one socially, isn't it? For us to be able to provide an opportunity for continuity. And this is the idea we came across in our discussions about John Locke yesterday, that personhood is continuous. It doesn't stop once somebody has a diagnosis of dementia. So if personhood is continuous, then so too should be the roles and abilities as much as possible that we engage the person with in their journey with dementia. Now that will naturally change as they progress, but let's make sure it changes not so much from the setting in which they're cared for, but simply because of the disease itself. And the disease will change the person's abilities, but let's make the environment within which they're cared for as supportive and positive as possible. The fourth point, support abilities through meaningful daily living. Again, this gets at what's going to happen in the environment. Meaningful daily living. And this comes back to the Montessori work that we saw yesterday. What opportunities can you give people for meaningful interactions during the day? Not token interactions, but meaningful engagement in activities that are going to have some meaning for them. So have a think about that. We'll have some discussions about it as we go. Number 5, respect the right to freedom of choice and speech. How much do we take over from the people we care for? How much do we make choices for them, presuming that they can't? Now, there are some choices that people won't be able to make, but let's present them with options in a way that either informs them about what we're going to do if they can't in fact make the choice, or provide them with a choice that they can make. Number 6, have valued settings of a home-like environment. home-like as much as possible. Think about home. We were talking about it earlier today. What is it about your home that makes it a home? Part of it is all the things of yours around your home that signify who you are and the choices you've made. It might be the colours, it might be what you put on the walls, it might be the furniture, it might be the bed coverings. Number 7, respect privacy, dignity and personal possessions. Again, personal space. Allowing for privacy, even in shared rooms. How do we create privacy for somebody in a shared room? It needs to be skillfully done. How do we do that? And personal possessions. How do we personalise an environment so that the person's space is signified as theirs? This is my space, and I feel comfortable in that space. Number 8, give choice of activity and involvement as much as possible again. Number 9, provide safety and security while supporting independence. How much risk do we enable the person to engage in, and at the same time provide opportunity for safety to be part of that experience, without necessarily or without unnecessarily restricting the person's movement and freedoms of choice. And the link there is down the bottom to where you will find those principles. There is a lot more detail in each principle where they expand on how it can be understood and supported. So it's well worth going to have a look at those. These are some links in that Victorian Department of Health website. These links are very useful, and I would suggest you have a look at each of them and just explore what they might trigger in your mind about what you can do in your physical environment. What assistive technology might be useful in your environment? Now, assistive technology might be even the mats, the alarm mats that you use by the bedside, or they might be more locating devices to ensure people's safety. Colour strategies. What colour strategies might be useful? There's some advice there about colours for aged care homes. Dining room essentials. What's important to include in a dining room space that might enable you to engage people in a satisfying mealtime experience? Environmentally sustainable design. How do we create an environment that is sustainable these days? Furniture and furnishings checklist. There's some really good information there about the particular furnishings that you might include. Gardens and outdoor spaces, a checklist for them. A home-like environment checklist. So this is quite interesting. There's some really good detail here about what you might include. What makes a place home-like? So they put a lot of thought into this. Interior design. How do you create an interior design that's suitable for people with dementia? And life and design for people with dementia. Staff support through physical design. How do we support our staff groups? How do we create a space that staff can function in? Because this has to be for both. This is a living environment and a working environment. How do we create that? And finally, surfaces, strategies for floors, walls and ceilings, and finally windows. Alright, so each of those sections is a link in the Victorian Department of Health website that you can then access and find lots of resources there. So I would, for your assessments particularly, I would encourage you to use those sites.